Here's a good question that I think we should be asking ourselves. What are we hoping for in the long run? When my wife and I started our ministry, we generally knew what we were hoping for was to help people struggling in poverty. We knew much less about how we were going to do it, though. We knew people were in need, so meeting their needs seemed like the right way to get started. And so we met needs. We met a lot of needs. At one point, we had listed on our website how many couches and kitchen tables, microwaves and beds that we had given away. And those were just a few of the things on a long list of thousands of material items that we were giving to those who came through our doors. Every year, we would ask our community for more support, more donations, to make sure that we were able to provide for more needs presented to us, often by the same people, year after year. We came to realize that what we were doing and what we were hoping for were in tension with one another. We were hoping to help people in poverty move toward a flourishing life, but what we were doing simply was not accomplishing that. And that's because we were more focused on outputs than outcomes, and there's a difference. Mario Marino, in his book, Leap of Reason, defines outcomes as socially meaningful changes in terms of knowledge, skills, behaviors, or conditions. On the other hand, outputs are defined as the number of activities, services, or people served. Can you think of examples of outputs and outcomes in your own work? They're quite different, aren't they? You might take a minute and write down a few examples of each. What you're hoping for in the long run for the people you serve are your outcomes. Certainly, your hope is not to provide the same goods and services to the same people for years on end. If you're like me, you're hoping for something a lot better than that, like improved education, increased social capital, independent housing, or maybe the next best job for your clients. Those are the socially meaningful changes Mario Marino wrote about, and they are what most of us are hoping for in the long run. But how do you get there? Well, it's all about connecting what you're doing, your outputs, with what you're hoping for, your outcomes, by measuring progress from one to the other. Without measuring your program's success in achieving the outcomes you've established, they'll continue to remain disconnected, leaving you in a situation where what you're doing and what you're hoping for never connect. These measurements are called indicators. Marino defines them like this: specific measurable conditions that demonstrate whether change has happened toward the intended outcomes. Here's an example. An emergency shelter offers a job training program. That's an output. They have an outcome of full-time employment in their community. What would you measure from their output of their job training program to the outcome of employment? Well, indicators might be things like the number of job applications completed or the number of interviews landed. Once these indicators are established, they'll drive you and your team toward excellence by demanding that you modify your programs to reach what you're hoping for in the long run. Here are your takeaways for today. You might want to grab a pen to write these down so you can begin putting them into action today. First, identify your outcome domains. Revisit what you're hoping for and then write it down. The outcomes at our mission fall into 3 domains: character, career, and connection. We hope to see improvement in those 3 areas for the people we serve. Identify your outcome domains. Here's a list to get you started: employment, housing, education, social networks, family stability, health, and financial stability. Second, revisit your outputs. Often, what we're hoping for in the long run may not match up with what we're actually doing. Revisit your outputs and ask yourself, do I believe this program and its results are moving us toward any of our outcome domains? If you don't think so, then the program probably needs to be cut. But if you decide to keep it, then make sure you take the next step. Measure your progress. This is where you establish your indicators, the specific numbers that you expect to see as a result of your programs. Set them as goals and establish ways to measure success or failure. This may require a spreadsheet to track enrollment, to grades, to graduations, to employment or independent housing. Without these indicators of progress or failure, you'll never know how best to modify your programs for ultimate success. I want you to be successful, and your success is dependent on clear outcomes with an accurate way to measure progress. What you're hoping for matters because that hope is for people who often have a hard time hoping for themselves. That's it for today. Let's go out there, fight poverty, and win.